Hello and good afternoon, good evening, good day, salutations, and whatever and however you say hello, I am saying hello to you from my part of the world. I am coming to you to um, talk to you today about, um, let's see, I am trying to get something going here, and something always gets in the way. But I am here to talk and to allow us to actually talk about some things that are near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to talk to you about those things. Um, this is Marina Laster with All Things Lifestyle coming to you today. And y'all, look, I don't know if you can tell, but I am in one of my favorite places in the world, the library. And it is someplace that I have always loved to come. This is someplace that I used to come when I was in high school, when I was growing up, and I was always in here. And so this is just kind of bringing me back to a place that influenced my life. And talking about influencers, then that's what I'm going to talk about today. Because just as the library has influenced me, there are people in our lives who influence us as well. And we also influence those people. And that is what I'm going to talk about with you today. Being an influencer, we that's a term people throw around now like, drinking water. They throw it around all the time. They talk about, influencers, people getting rich, being influencers, people actually, making money on it, advertising for people. And it's something that you think about. And a lot of young people today talk about getting rich, being an influencer. So, y'all, I want you to know that you are an influencer. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have, thousands of YouTube followers and, thousands of Facebook followers. You don't have to have all of that because you are an influencer. You were placed here to be an influencer. Now, the Bible tells us that we are salt and we are light, and salt and light are influencers because if you can't influence anybody by being salt, and if you can't influence anybody being light, then what are you? When you are influencing people, then you are influencing people by letting your light shine. And in order to let your light shine, that means you got to be out of the darkness and you got to be in a place where people can see you. And when they see you, what? You are influencing them. And then it talks about salt. We are salt. If salt doesn't influence the taste of food, I don't know what does. If you get some food and it's bland and there is no salt in it, y'all, you don't want that. You don't want to taste it. You don't want to eat that. Same thing with our lives. If there are not some people in our lives who can influence us and who can impact us, then we have a problem. So, y'all, don't let social media fool you. Don't let all the hype about influencers fool you because we all have an assignment and we all have a part that we are to play. We influence people every day. As parents, we influence our children. We influence them by their listening to us and by our lifestyle and them watching who we are and what we do. They see it all the time. We are influencing them. Um, we are influencing people at work. When they see you, they know what to expect from you. They know what they can expect in terms of about your performance. So you are an influencer. You influence the progress of the projects you're working on. You influence the people in the community that you impact. For instance, with me, part of my job is to go out and make collaborative efforts, to make connections, to impact the community so that they know who we are at the college, so that they know what we have to offer. I let them know how they can partner with us, and there's so many other things that we do. And so influencer. I am an influencer, but I also influence at my church. I influence in my community and wherever I may be. So, one of the things about being an influencer is, as I said before, you don't have to listen to the hype, the hype and what people are saying, because people will put you in a box and make you think about your life and think about your role in ways that are not necessarily what was intended for it to be. And so when you think about being an influencer, I want you to walk in it. Walk in it. And that's why I titled this broadcast, I said, You, the influencer. You, the influencer. And what I'm saying to you is be about it. Be about it. Own it. Own your role. Own who you are. And the more you own it, the more you go out and be who you are created to be, the more you will see the impact on your life and on other people's lives. So, as I was thinking about this, one of the things I thought about was how people will try to get you out of the place where you're supposed to be. People will try to get you out of your role. People will try and get you out of your God ordained role and want you to fit into where they want you to fit. And so I was thinking about the Apostle Paul and his influence, how he has influenced the Bible. He wrote most of the whole New Testament. And he was someone that if he had listened to all of the naysayers and the people who had tried to have influence over him, then he would not have done what he was supposed to do. He actually listened. He accepted his role when he was on the Damascus Road. He followed the specific instructions that he was given. He followed it all the way to the T. But then what did we have happening along the way? You had the people who said Paul, well, see, they didn't know. They were still calling him Saul. But they were like, isn't he the one that was going around killing Christians? Isn't he the one that was doing this and doing that? Isn't he the one who, he was telling us not to follow God, and now we're supposed to listen to him? So when he was out and he was out doing and trying to start on the path of being an influencer, you had, here comes the enemy trying to set up a trap all the way from the beginning before he could even get started in what he was supposed to be doing. All those people, what they were doing though, see, they were looking at Paul's past. They were looking at who they saw him to be. And this is what people will do for you. They will look back and say, well, now, isn't that the person who used to be a instructional aide at the clinic? Isn't she the person who used to be a work at the child care network? And so how in the world is it that she's supposed to be such a know-it-all now and be an influencer? Well, the thing is that when God elevates you, because the Bible tells us that promotion comes from God. And so when he promotes you and he tells you to step into a role, that is your role. And so people will try to keep you confined in a box. They will try to keep you confined where they want you to be, confined where they saw you and where they met you. And I tell people all the time, no, you tell them, you knew me in chapter 3. I am on chapter 10. You got some catching up to do, because where you were and where you saw me back then is not where I am now, and that's not who I am. But see, the thing is that who you were is not who God says you are. God constantly is making us be desiring to be better, desiring to be who he has called us to be. And when the word says that I have a plan for you, I know who I called you to be. And I have called you. I want to prosper you. And I want to give you a hope and a future. Then when he tells us those things, then we got to walk into what he's called us to be. You can't be walking around saying what you can't do. Now, if he says you can do it, then you can do it. We do it every day. Now, the thing you need to understand also is about influencers is that you can either be a positive influence or a negative influence on people. People are influencing every day. every day. So you got some people who are following the wrong voices and the wrong people, and then you got some people who are choosing their God-given path, and they are being a positive influence. That's what we are to be, a positive influence. And so when I'm talking about being a positive influence, I want you to think about it today. How can you own up to what it is that you're called to do? How can you step into your role? Well, let me give you a few pointers that will probably help you and help you to be an influencer and the influencer that you were called to be. First of all, you got to reflect and examine yourself and to know exactly where you are, what your gifts are, what your assignment is, who the people are that you are to influence, and kind of just look around you. When we ask God to enroll and enlarge our territory, then that means our territory is going to spread, it's going to be bigger, wider than we thought. It's going to be a lot more vast, which means not only in land and territory, but also in people and the kinds of people that we can influence. Now, I received a prophecy probably over 20 years ago from someone that told me you will reach masses. You will reach thousands of people. You will reach people that other people won't even have access to. And you will be able to have influence on their lives. And I have found this to be true. There are people that I have met, people that I have been able to talk to, people who I have counseled as an individual mental health therapist, as a life coach, on radio broadcasts, through articles that I write in newspapers and magazines. I am influencing a lot of lives. And a lot of the people I never even know that I'm touching, which is why it's important for you to be in place and accept your assignment and be where God has called you to be, because you don't know who you're going to be reaching. You know, when I meet people, when I'm out, I see people all the time that are saying, "Oh, I heard your broadcast. Oh, I saw your replay on Facebook. Oh, I read your article in the Middle Georgia Informer newspaper. I read your article in the magazine." I never even have met these people. I never even knew that these people were following me, or that these were people who I was having influence on. And the thing is that the people are of all statues. You know, these people have been people who are wealthy. They are people who are in positions of power. They are people from the lowest, as we rank people, all the way up to people that we consider untouchable. You know, I have talked to entertainers. I have talked to people who are authors, just a variety of people. And as I mentioned and I talk about often on my recent vacation, our tour guide, the person that was with us, was talking about how he was so impacted and influenced just by that week that he was with us, with the wisdom and the things that we were able to share, how I was able to motivate him to get out of that place of complacency in the box that people had put him in. You know, he had low self-esteem when it came to the things that he could do. He didn't think he could do those things. And so we, as a group, and myself on my time alone with him, you know, talked to him, helped him to assess where he was and what he was called to do and who he was and the gifts that were in him. And he has made a decision now to go forth and do the things that he's been called to do. So that is what influencers do. Influencers help you. They help you to get out of your box, help you to move on and get into the place that you were called to be. So, what are some things you can do now to think about where you're called to be, what your influence is, who you are to impact, and how you can go about this? Because a lot of people say they don't know. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? You know, if you watch the videos on YouTube and everywhere else, they'll tell you, oh, you gotta go to this training, and you gotta watch this webcast, and you gotta pay $9.95, and you know all of this. No, if you will listen to the voice of God, He will tell you what you need to do, because He has already placed within us. The Bible tells us He's already placed within us what we need. Now, You can ask for guidance. You can ask him to direct your path. You can ask him to show you who you are to impact, who you are to be around, and things of that sort. But you don't have to do all the stuff that they're telling you that you have to do to be an influencer. It would be nice, yes, it would be nice to have thousands of people on a roll or on a list or whatever. But the thing about that is that you don't know if they are just following you to be following on the bandwagon, if they are doing it because somebody else said that they need to do it. What we are looking at is we are looking at results. God is looking at fruitfulness. So the impact that you have on people's lives, the influence that you have should result in fruitful lives. Now, I'm not talking about busy lives because people all the time are talking about how busy they are and what they got going on. And, oh, I don't have time to do this and I don't have time to do that. My schedule won't let me and all of that. No, busyness does not equal fruitfulness. And that's something that we need to remember. Fruitfulness. Fruitfulness is what God's going to look at. You're going to be examined by the fruit that you produce, the fruit that you bear, and the fruit that you influence and help other people to bear. So that's number one. Are you fruitful? Not busy, but fruitful. Are you creating fruit? Then the second thing is look at your gifts. What are you doing now? Are the things that you're doing in line with the spiritual gifts you have been given? Are they in line with your talents and abilities? Or are they things that you're doing because it's the most popular thing to do right now? Or it's because somebody says, this is what is going to make me a lot of money? Well, money is not the most important thing either. And I have always heard it said that all money is not good money. So just because you have money does not mean you are successful. So, number three, what areas are you avoiding? Are there things that you are avoiding doing because you are saying that, well, I don't like doing that? Well, number one, God's not going to call you to do something that He has not positioned you and given you what you need to do it. Now, when you're saying that you're not doing it or that's not what I want to do, I've heard people say, for instance, I don't want to be in ministry because ministers don't get paid a lot of money. Well, that is not why you're in it. And if you're in it and He puts you in it, you will be taken care of. Now, you have to be in it for the right reasons, the salt and the light and the other things that I was talking about earlier. So, examine yourself. What are you avoiding? What are your gifts? What are you called to do? And then the next thing is, what relationships are you paying attention to? What relationships are you avoiding? Are you sitting at home saying, well, I can't go out, I can't do anything? And especially now, people are saying what they can't do because of COVID. Well, in a way, COVID has given a blessing to us in a way because you can reach people in so many other ways. You can reach people on the World Wide Web. You can have platforms such as this one. You can have podcasts. You can write articles. You can do Zoom meetings. There are so many things that we can do. You cannot sit behind the excuse of, well, I can't get out of my house. I can't go anywhere because of COVID. You can sit in your own house, in your own room, all by your lonely, and do what you have been called to do. And that is what we're called to do. So, what legacy? What legacy are you building? We are called to also build a legacy. Paul left a legacy. And that's the thing I look at when I'm looking at all of the stuff he did, all the things that he did to people, and, you know, people were talking about him. But in the end, they came around. God caused that thing to turn around. And Paul ended up being one of the people who was an influencer and still is today an influencer of people and a person who helps to impact and change lives. So, what's your legacy going to be when you leave here? Are people going to remember you and what you said and what you did, or is it all going to die with you? One of the marks of a great leader is that when you're no longer around, your impact is still great. You have a lot of people, for instance, if they are a leader, when they retire, everything falls apart and everything dies. That wasn't a leader. That was not a great leader. When you are a great leader, what you do will last. It will last because you are going to put some things in place to make sure that your legacy is going to carry on, that your legacy will continue. So, what legacy are you building right now? Because you are an influencer. You are an influencer already in your own right. You may not have thousands of followers or whatever, but guess what? If that is to be, it will come. Most of the people on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else that we look, we look at them and we think of them as being an overnight sensation. But if you will read their life story or if you will listen to their podcast and them talking about what they did, they will tell you they've been in this game for 10 years, 20 years. They've been trudging along, doing what they've been called to do. And then with their diligence, with their being a steward of what they were called to do, they eventually become successful and they become known, widely known. But they were already doing this. They were already doing what they are doing. We just didn't know it. We didn't see them. And so we cannot go around and look at people thinking about people being overnight successes because overnight successes are, I'm thinking it overnight. I'm thinking and something just hit me. When you think of night, these people were in the dark. They were developing in the dark overnight when nobody had the ability to see them. You know, it's kind of like the way that pictures used to be developed. People used to have to go into a dark room to develop pictures, and they put them in the developer, and then you would see it come to light. But it was in a dark room. Well, that's what God will do with us. A lot of times we're in the dark and we're developing right now as an influencer, but we got to stay diligent. We got to stay on the path so that when He's ready to expose us, when He's ready for us to be fully developed and exposed, then people look at you and say, well, where did she come from? I didn't know she was this or I didn't know she was that. But you were diligent. You were working on what you were called to do. Nobody saw you. Nobody knew it, but you were there. And so I look at a lot of influencers. One of my favorite people that I follow is Lisa Nichols. And when you look at her and when you listen to her story, she talks about when her son was a baby and how she didn't have Pampers for him and she didn't have money. And she went to the bank to get her last money out to buy some Pampers, which she could not do because when she went to the bank, you got to be able to get an even number of money or a certain amount out of the bank. And she had money in the bank, but it was not enough to withdraw money from the bank. And it was on a weekend. And she talks about how she had to improvise with Pampers or with making a diaper for him. But at that time, she told him, even as a baby, we won't be in this position anymore. We will not be in this position. And so she worked and she began to speak and talk and set her mind to what she was going to do. And now she is one of the wealthiest women in the world. She is a billionaire. She's a billionaire. And I think she's the only black female, who is traded on Wall Street. So starting out, nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew who she was when her baby was needing Pampers and she didn't have anybody to help her. And when she could not get that last money out of the bank, nobody knew her. But she sat down, she made a plan, she figured out what she needed to do to not be in that position anymore. And now she still does the same thing. She's still doing workshops. She's still influencing people. She is still out there being an influencer. And the thing I like about her is that this was when her son was a baby. Her son is an adult now. Her son got married, I think, not too long ago. And so he is an influencer also, because he is following in her footsteps, and I think he works for her company now as well. And so when you see her down and you go to her conferences and you pull her up online, you look at her and you think she's always been who she is. That's not true. Les Brown, just go back and look at some of the people, research them, the people who you consider influencers. Go back and read their stories. Go back and look at their history. Me, go back. I wasn't always where I am. I have not always been in the position that I'm in. I had things that I had to go through, but those things built me to make me be able to some stand up and tell you, um, be wise, to live your life. Try to live the best life that you can, because it's the only life that you have. Some people get lucky enough, and it's still their only life though. But some people, for instance, if they are in a car accident or something happens to them, they may get up and get a second chance. But most of us, this is it. This is it. This is all you get. And you got to do what you got to do while you have the time to do it. So you are an influencer. Get up and get about it. Do what you're supposed to be doing. So then ask yourself, what are your spiritual gifts? Do a spiritual gift inventory. There are plenty online. You can just type it in, spiritual gift inventory, pull it up. It will tell you what your gifts are. It will help you to analyze what it means, what your calling is, the things that you are strong in, the things that you're not so good in that you need to build up. Pull them up, work on it, because we're supposed to be getting better and better every day. Every day. You can't stand and say that I got to stay here where I am. Where you are now is not who you were called to be. You were called to be better, you were called to be more, and you were called to continue to get better each and every day. So get out of that box. Don't put God in the box. Get out of the box and do what you were called to do. Another question is, are you checking off your bucket list? Are you doing some fun things? Even though I'm an influencer and I have things that I enjoy doing and I'm called to do, there are some things that I also want to do that God will let me do. He said that He would let me be able to enjoy some things as well. And so these are things, though, that fit within who He is and what He had called and what He had said. So that means I'm not going to be out there doing all kind of crazy, wild stuff. But He has a whole big world. He has a whole creation. He has so many beautiful things for us to see and to do. And so there's nothing wrong with you wanting to take trips, wanting to travel. I love traveling. But the thing about it is, as I travel, I'm open. I am open to the voice of God telling me who to reach, who to talk to, how I can influence the people that I come in contact with. Because just because I'm on the other side of the world does not mean that I cannot be an influencer. I can be an influencer wherever I am. And so consider what it is. Then, time's almost up, but I have one last question. Are you a good steward of your body and mind that God has given to you? Are you a good steward? Which means that we have to be careful what we're putting in our mind, what we're putting in our bodies, because all those things are going to influence how we live. It's one thing to want to be able to get up, move around, go places, do things, but your body just won't cooperate. That's got to be a terrible, terrible feeling. And then the other thing is then to have a mind that is not functioning because you're not expanding your mind. You're not doing the things you can do to grow your mind and to continue to let your mind begin to operate the way God has ordained it to. Build your mind up every day. Exercise your mind just like you do your body, because they both need you. So, lastly, I'm just saying, you are an influencer. Don't let anybody take that from you. Now, get out and find out how you can influence and who you are to influence and how, and then begin to get about it. So, you've been listening to Rena Laster, all things lifestyle, talking about the lifestyle of the influencer. Who is the influencer? You are. So tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. and we will continue to talk about this subject. So until then, y'all be blessed and get out, influence somebody. Take care.